all media in a digital environment at some level are social, and some more than others. So I don't want to totally distinguish social media from media, since I think they're congruent in many ways. But there are special aspects of modern social media, the centralized ones in particular, that are really causing big change.
Hello, my name is Mbulelo and I'll be registering you today.
Journalism is not dying, but I think we'll come through it with a more diverse and interesting media ecosystem in the future. I've been here, I think, 3 other times. I'm trying to remember, and it's great to be back. Why would I come? Well, Africa is important. Journalism is important. I can learn a lot, and of course, you asked me.
What's always amusing for me is when people write to us. Highway Africa has been going on for 18 years, but I still get some really kind of, is it Africa to Highway? Highway to Africa? And the killer for me was being invited to University of Texas at Austin and being told that you must be very clear with these Americans. They assume that you are in the road construction business. The amazing thing is really the loyalty of our corporate sponsors. If I look at it, and I look at Barclays, 12 years of sponsorship of the Highway Africa Conference, MTN, 14 years of association with this conference. Then, of course, Telkom, 18 years the founding sponsor of this. That's, we got to give them a round of applause for that. I want to thank the speakers and trainers. We don't pay our speakers, but the enthusiasm with which actually they come and prepare, the effort that goes into preparing presentations, whether it's even writing a paper, but they have done that. Year in, year out, we are humbled that they would find interest in coming out here. We're a bit off the map, so when you really make that pilgrimage, I can tell you, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much to our speakers and trainers for that.
Dan Gilmore said, our audience now knows more than we do. Somewhere in this great change into this digital world, our audiences moved on, left us, found other media. And in fact, we're playing a game of catch-up, and it's an urgent catch-up game. But for me, what I worry more about is where has the audience gone? Where is the audience to be found? When we're making all this media, who are we talking to? Because they're not captives anymore to our institutional media. So I think it's very urgent that we talk about what social media is, what it can do, and how we recapture it a little bit away from that audience, because we are the aggregators, we are the editors, we are the meaning makers, we are the educators, and we're not going to give up on that role, even if the world around us changes.
We called the internet itself a disruptive technology, a revolution. And then there were wave after wave of revolutions that came on top of it. And just when we think we've done everything, another wave comes, something that completely changes the way that society engages.
What's quite important for us as Telkom is to understand how do we play a role and how do operators around Africa play a role in enabling this. Because that's where we see ourselves going forward. How do we make sure that we provide technology, capability, connectivity for users across the continent, irrespective of geography, irrespective of social status, etc., to allow them to engage with social media and to be part of this conversation.
Then we get to 3.0, the explosion from the internet. And the printing press may have been the first big one, but this subsumes and includes and extends all of the previous forms of media. I said that it was manufacturing and distribution before. That's not what we do now. That's not the same thing anymore. Here's what we do today. We create stuff, as we did in the past, but then we put it somewhere online, and people come and get it. That's not the same thing as distribution, the way we did it in the past. And if we don't recognize that, and a lot of traditional journalists are still trying to figure that out. If we don't get that, we miss a very big change and a very big point. Even today, people say, well, if everybody can create media, who's the journalist? I think that's the wrong question. The better question is, what is journalism? I would be so thrilled to be your age and starting out in a world where anything is possible with media, where it's all being reinvented every day, and you're going to be the ones to reinvent it, and I'm going to watch. This is yours to improve and to evolve and to make what happens for the future.
There's no such thing as digital journalism. It's all just journalism now. We have print journalism and then journalism. So digital journalism has won that circle battle. And I realized there is no disruption of newsrooms. There's no disruption anymore. It's just evolution. There never was disruption. It's just part of the evolution of journalism. The big disruption is with the reader, with the technology, with social media, with video, with citizen reporting. That has changed dramatically the importance of the reader to journalism. The importance of the journalist, the writer, is still exactly the same. We don't want order in journalism. There's no disruption, it's evolution. We don't want to impose order. We want to be stumbling towards chaos every moment of every day. That's how great meaning evolves.
We are top when it comes to conversation, where our leaders are having a conversation with the people who are following them. They're replying directly to issues that are being raised. You can see the Prime Minister of Uganda, the President of Rwanda, the Foreign Minister of Rwanda, all there in the top 5 of the most conversational world leaders. So why is this important? You know, the Swahili have a saying, asiye kujua hakuthamini. He who doesn't know you doesn't value you. So by being present on social media, by being present in these places, our leaders are beginning to know us, and we believe, hopefully, beginning to, value us. But here's the big problem that we're facing today. Data is underused. There's more data than there are applications, and then as a result, there are many stories that are being untold, and that's what really gets close to you as journalists. So where is the real power in the world today? And one of the real centers of power in the world today is tools and strategies that can turn raw data into collective intelligence.
Who's this person that we want to, we're trying to include in the conversation? And I thought about my aunt. She represents the majority of people in Zimbabwe. So 67% of the population live in the rural areas, 52% of the population are women. And whenever I think of the work that we're doing at 263 Chat, I'm trying to find a way to get to her. I'm trying to get a way for her to, for her voice to be included in the national discourse. I would like, and because she's also a woman, in our family, I know traditionally maybe her voice isn't that important, but I'm trying to talk to her, and I want to hear what she has to say about issues. And until we get to that point where she's part of the conversation, I don't think we've won yet. But whatever we're trying to do, let's remember that the mobile phone is an important part of that very discussion.
Tyro is from Google of all of West Africa, and I am a professor of journalism at Emerson College in Boston, Massachusetts. So we have kind of combined together to get started in talking about the different digital tools.
We media people tend to use these tools a lot more frequently, and we need to just get a little more better at it. People want answers, and they want those answers quick. Any search engine that can't provide you an answer within your first 2 seconds loses you. I mean, as we all know, media has gone beyond just being a one-to-one medium to a one-to-many, and then it comes back, it gives you feedback. So how do you engage with people in real time? And under that, you have Google Plus and Hangouts and YouTube.
I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the launch of this new book by 3 eminent scholars, Hey Mawindi Mabuya Azara, Okoth Fred Mudai, and Jason Whitaker. The book is titled Online Journalism in Africa, Trends, Practices, and Emerging Cultures. It's a book whose title actually resonates with the theme of this year's Highway Africa. So this is a very befitting place to launch this book.
It's quite striking that I'm launching this book at Highway Africa, because there's a sense in which, for me, it's returning to the source. It's going back to where all these ideas actually started, going back to the formative stages of the book itself, because it's very much influenced by some of the research that Highway Africa started almost over a decade ago, when I was still a master's student here at Rhodes. And so we said, why don't we sit down and capture, practices as emerging from an African context, from Africa, and actually speak back to Western discourses and even complement some of those discourses. So what the book is actually doing is showcasing, in a sense, the diversity of online digital journalism practices in an African context. But also we are providing data that can help us sort of do cross-cultural, cross-national comparative practices. Africa is alive. Things are happening in Africa as well. Digital journalism is occurring and happening in Africa, and happening in African terms, in terms that are shaped by local context, in terms that point to localized appropriations as opposed to transformations that are measured against the backdrop of what is happening elsewhere in developing economies. We only have 2 copies, and my idea was that we conduct a draw at some point, whoever is lucky is going to walk away with it.
Great. Okay. Rachel Sibandi. Yeah, but we've done two. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. May I call upon Sim Chaze?
Charles is also one of those people who are one of the few switched on. I mean, there are many Africans who are switched on, but he does have three syndicated columns in 3 different countries, and he has embarked on a really worthwhile venture, and I think it should be applauded.
One of the questions we asked in ourselves that if we are going digital in an Africa sense, apart from a few markets which we know, can we see any consumption patterns for a multimedia project digitally? It is a news platform for reporting why things do or don't happen, using an evidence and data-based, non-dogmatic analytical approach, and provide smart graphics and maps on African news. So we built a profile. We said this person would be 30 years old, lives in an urban area, has a smartphone, is an optimist, single professional, has a family, earns $2,500 a month, has a college education. So you really have to get very, very specific. To get that kind of demographic, it was unrealistic to imagine that there would be more than 100,000 such a people out there. And we thought also that the fewer they are, the more valuable. Our goal was to create a product which has got so much prestige that it would give us what we call convening power. So we're going to do those through what we call Africa Dialogue Series. In 3 months, we are close to getting to our yearly target for unique visitors, and we are really just 60 or so thousand off from our page views. If we grow at this rate, by the end of the first year, we will have 280,000 to 300,000 unique views. And we will have about 590,000 page views, which is where, in the case of page views, we thought would be in 2018, and terms of uniques, we thought would be in 2017.
Songezo Zibi, the author, had not actually held a copy of this book until he came here. So we were the first to give him a copy of his own book because we got it straight from the printers, the very first copies to be printed.
One of the key things to understand about South African psychology right now is that we have lost sight of the future question. How do we reinvigorate the question of South Africa's future? And I believe that what Songezo is trying to do in this book is just that.
If anything happens, I'm always that guy who tries to figure out immediately what we do next because I hate being stuck. And I feel that the continent, I felt and I still feel very strongly that the continent is stuck and South Africa is stuck. And we've become reactionaries who do not have any principle. And we tend to contradict ourselves because we're not rooted in any ethical and public moral principle. I find it difficult to let someone who will not experience my future to shape it for me and misshape it for me at that. And then when I have to deal with a situation that is bad for me, I look for another excuse because it is sacrilege to say they've misshaped my future for me. The assignment we have before us as young Africans, as young South Africans, is to think and to think in a systemic way and to be honest about what is wrong with our society caused by ourselves, by our past, and any outsiders who might be involved. And then to think very carefully about how we're going to craft our own solutions and take the difficult political and personal decisions that we have to take in order to make that future a reality. But when we don't point a finger at ourselves and ask very serious questions about how we make this a struggle about human dignity and giving meaning to the life of every African and every South African, we are failing. We will not progress, we will not get where we need to be.
also give a warm welcome and enjoy Lana Crowster with the Lana Crowster Quintet. Thank you so much to Barclays Africa for continuing to support this event.
Our association has allowed us to invest in the professional development of journalists across the continent, and through them to take an active role in the development of an independent and vibrant media community in Africa. As part of the pre-conference activity, the Barclays Africa Journalism Masterclass provides training for journalists across a variety of topics. This year, the focus was on data journalism. Accurate data, or maybe I should say the facts, should lie at the heart of any good story. This year's masterclass provided insight into the collection of data, the analysis of data, and the presentation of it in a meaningful and appealing way as part of telling that story. In Barclays, we believe that a strong, effective and objective media is best placed to tell the African story and provide an independent source of factual reporting.
When all the voices that should be heard are heard, that is the enduring refrain that emerges from our continent. In an overwhelmingly democratic continent, we expect news media to be fearless in investigating issues of public policy and in contributing to public discourse. At the same time, we wish to see this fearlessness extend to holding up to Africans and the international community the irrefutable and unstoppable march of African development that is unfolding in our lifetime. Highway Africa represents traditional and constantly evolving forms of communication and media that holds the potential to inspire a new African dialogue and discourse that will dispense with the long-held prejudices and perceptions and let Africa's dominant storyline of change and development emerge.
My panel is very, very interesting, and today we're going to be talking about political identity and the rise of individual voices in the age of social. So I thought I'd set the scene for you guys before the panel goes into the conversation. So in the last 10 years, we've seen individuals come out of the fringes to join the mainstream conversation. They have become part of political discourse, and their voices have started to lead conversations around the world. The key question I'm quite interested in is, everyone talks about social media and how social media is finally ready to deliver democracy to individuals as we were promised. Is this technology been revolutionary for individuals? Have we really seen change in Africa?
So our work is largely to do with getting women online. Now, when you put our followings into the analytics to find out the disaggregation of that following by sex, you find a very interesting bit of information. I turned to some literature, some popular ideas about how men and women use social media. And there's this phrase that keeps coming up every time you look through some research information that says, men tweet, women pin. Sometimes it's men tweet, women pin, everyone Facebooks. Twitter is a very restricted space. It's 140 characters, and you have to be very concise. And the idea or the thinking is that, well, men are largely less elaborate, so that would appeal to their taste. The other idea, anyway, is that, when you go onto Twitter, largely people are sharing news and information. So it is a news-driven space. It's very fast. It's very, you have to be on your toes and you have to be constantly finding out what's going on to remain relevant. LinkedIn is for people you know, Facebook is for people you used to know, and Twitter is for people you want to know. So in a way, it seems to imply that Twitter is an aspirational space. And many people did bolster this statement by saying, I follow celebrities, I follow politicians, I follow people that I want to know, people I would normally not have a chance to interact with. People are not really reading. People are reading, they see thumbnails, they see the title of an article, and they make a whole assumption or a whole argument based on that. So we're sort of faking this cultural literacy and, pretending like we know a little bit more than we do and getting into these comfort zones. But different audiences, different knowledge. What and who we know depends on the social media platform and who we interact with. And also, Twitter shows us who the news is still about. Twitter may help us better understand as well the inherent gendered biases of mainstream media. Perhaps women are not coming online to Twitter because they don't feel that they have any news to report about that represents them.
We're a community of bloggers from around the world that cover citizen media. So we curate, amplify, and translate citizen media from around the world. There are sites in 30 different languages, and so someone who's tweeting in Arabic in Egypt, their words are translated into English, so someone who may not speak Arabic can read what's happening on the ground in Egypt. And that story is then translated into, a dozen different languages. So someone in China who may not necessarily know Arabic or English can hear the words of bloggers on the ground. And I lead the Rising Voices Project, which is the outreach initiative of Global Voices, and we support underrepresented communities from around the world to take advantage of the benefits of citizen media to tell their own stories. One of Rising Voices is special focus topics, how participatory citizen media can help revitalize endangered, indigenous, and underrepresented languages. And so while social media may not exactly save these languages, but it could be a part of the strategy, along with academic research, public policy, scientific documentation. But we're really interested in how this grassroots activism is helping, revitalize these languages.
I lecture in history, and history is in many ways in a very interesting dilemma with the internet and digital media. On the one hand, it's great for us to be able to suddenly see the digitization of archives and so on. But we are also in a different kind of relationship with the internet because we believe that, well, when I say we, I mean we here in this department, have this belief that it is eroding a certain mind capacity in our students. What's significant about the internet is that it makes knowledge acquisition trite and superficial. And this is quite significant because obviously for us, we need our students to be able to distinguish between different forms of knowledge. So that notion of discriminating between forms of knowledge and where they've been produced has become significantly eroded. All this sociology of digital media creates these enclaves and has given birth to the opinionista, of which I could consider myself one of these opinionistas. And by that I mean people who people believe have opinions that are worth inviting onto platforms like this to listen to. Yes, I lecture, but there's nothing distinctive about me except for the fact that I'm on social media. That's why I now write for papers and so on, all right, and get invited to Highway Africa.
I mean, I think what's been interesting is prior to the rise of social media and the democratization of this space so that more voices can be heard, voices that were amplified as opinion leaders were always through mainstream media, So it would be people who wrote maybe opinion pieces in the newspapers or were invited to talk shows on radio and TV. But what we've seen, at least in the Kenyan space, is that because of more people just really consistently and persistently being in these spaces, they are also now, sought out to engage in these other spaces in mainstream media, which still have wider reach. What I find really interesting when we talk about the rise of the individual voice is, do we look at it in terms of a collective that it then shapes? Can you ever remove it from the collective? What they have done is they've given us a way to appreciate that we will not agree to these things on the same way. We're not going to have a singular way of talking about them. We're not going to homogenize how we say we craft identity X.
Our topic this morning is Catch Them Young, Youth, Journalism and Media. And I think it gives us an opportunity to get a bird's eye view into the media industry of tomorrow. Oftentimes, as media leaders, media teachers, and other people interested in media, we're too involved in our own discourse and causes, and we fail to take into account effective capacity building, and looking at the next generation journalists and the industry that we want to remain for the future. These are the young people that will reflect what the media industry will stand for, who we are. And I believe it is critical that we understand how they are thinking of themselves in the broader media landscape, and how we can play a role to shape their thinking and to boost their confidence and give relevance to their young voices in the media, and also in a way to reshape Africa's agenda in the global media arena. Basically, the Future Journalist Program gives second-year journalism students from different universities in South Africa a platform to come together in an eclectic newsroom to totally disrupt their learning models, the learning technique that a usual university class, would sit through. We bring in mentors from the industry, people who are working on the industry every day, to come and train, and we model the training with them so that we can speak to industry needs and the kinds of skills that these young people have at the end of the program. They are employable by these people, their mentors, and the Highway Africa and all other media networks.
Coming from our respective universities and having been taught different curriculums, there were gaps and different levels of skills amongst us. The Future Journalist Program has empowered us so that we are now equipped with the same skill set level. Our portfolios represent our growing abilities and how we are being carved for the roles we are to take as versatile journalists. But as we continue to gain knowledge, wisdom, and experience, what we truly seek is a platform for our voices. Today, I'd like to make an attempt in answering what journalism is. Journalism is a conscious act of holding the mirror up to a so-called society, asking them, do you like what you see? Thank you.
She has observed that Nigeria is neither landlocked, waterlogged, bankrupt, nor short of human capital or natural mineral resources. That it should be in the dire state that it should be in the dire state that it is. Her concern thus is that as the structures of a productive society and economy erode, so the hopes and the dreams of its youth are dashed by the perpetuation of corruption, patronage, and abuse.
One of the things we've leveraged quite significantly is celebrities and leveraging their voice. Obviously countries all over the world, from the popularity of, for example, Bono's One campaign, there are some celebrities that, just by nature of who they are and what they're passionate about, they do lend their voice to speaking around social justice issues. And it's important just because, they're influencers. People listen to them, and we've used them in a variety of ways. So the video I showed with Two-Face, we got 15 of them to do it for the 2011 elections, and we're working with a few more of them to do it for 2015's elections as well. Traditional media, because of social media, has been forced to strengthen their online platforms, but as of today, none of them engage. They just tweet headlines and tweet information, post it on their Facebook page, but don't engage their audience. To bring back our girls, social media and advocacy. It was started in Nigeria, and I think a combination of the gravity of the crime, the Nigerian government's silence, and the World Economic Forum ensured that it went viral. 47 days later, which is today, the world has moved on to wars and crashed planes, but we're still asking our government to bring back our girls. So I show these images that these are things that obviously traditional media would not dare print, but it gets a lot of mileage online because they can. Social media provides people a free opportunity to express themselves without fear. Is something that will not be taken lightly if anybody tries to remove it. 2015 elections will be interesting because a lot of money will be spent online, even though we say elections aren't won online. Social media is also forcing government to communicate differently. So radio, TV, they push out information, don't expect anybody to talk back. Social media, people do talk back. It will be ideal to be able to take the power that people have online and translate it offline, but it's a process. I remind people that we shouldn't forget that Nigeria has a long history of military rule, and one cannot dissociate what that does to someone's psyche. around challenging authority and also being willing to speak out. So it's a process. As people record small victories online and offline, it would encourage them to take more action.
Red body's alright. Red body's inside. Red body's on you. And then some Peru. Red body's alright. Red body's inside. You're Reggie Bounty from the Zimbabwe.
My name is Keith Angora, by the way. I'm going to be your program director for tonight. I used to say Master of Ceremonies, and then I found out recently that a Master of Ceremony in Zambia is someone who helps with circumcisions. So I'd rather use program director nowadays. We are departing a little bit from tradition. In 2014, Highway Africa did not make a call for nominations for the New Media Awards. Instead, Highway Africa will be honouring 7 media people who have played a key role in the life of Africa's premier journalism conference. The Highway Africa Steering Committee that helped us find these 7 people met and finalised the list of the nominees for this inaugural award of outstanding service and contribution to Highway Africa. The 7 nominees, or Highway Africa Fellows, as they will become known, are the first in what we hope will become an annual ritual of recognition.
It's an honor for us at Telkom to have partnered with Highway Africa for the 18 years. We acknowledge the invaluable contribution that the conference has made in the media industry in the Southern Africa region.
Well done to Amina França. Elizabeth Barrett. The delegate who holds the record for attending the most Highway Africa conferences is Adam Clayton Powell, the third. Congratulations to you, Jovial Rantau. Mr. Sharif C. from Burkina Faso. Thank you very much. A big hand for Matata Tsedu. It's a great pleasure to welcome on stage Joe Alphas. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first Highway Africa Fellows. A big hand for them. As we say, thank you very much indeed for your outstanding service and dedication. Thank you very much indeed. The FJP has trained many journalism and communication students drawn from 9 tertiary institutions in South Africa since 2008. And tonight, 20 young people have completed this year's training and will be receiving their certificates. So congratulations from the Tshwane University of Technology, Jackson Malachi. Bongani Mchwele from the Tshwane University of Technology, Simbuyele Mageza, Tshwane University of Technology, Sisonke Mlamla, Fort Hare, Sibonga Tonke Mbata, Durban University of Technology, Dunisile Masuka, Durban University of Technology, Mampulelo Kubeka, University of Zululand, Sandiso Ndovana, University of Zululand, Lokolo Dangote, University of Zululand, Lynn Butler, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Mokayechi Kekana, University of Limpopo, Togozane Shongwe, University of Limpopo, Sana Mayula, University of Limpopo, Abiwe Ntila, Walter Sisulu University, Siamtanda Kaba, Walter Sisulu University, Wandisa Mtengedo, Walter Sisulu University, Shante Peterson, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Tembani Ontea, Rhodes University, Sisipo Squia, Rhodes University, and Tandin Bomi, Rhodes University. The Department of Environmental Affairs has been a key partner in Highway Africa, and we want to thank them for their contribution and their support.
This conference and the fact that you are emerging from your adolescence at the age of 18, may the storms be behind you. And the event that is so big, bringing journalists across the continent together, show how far we have come in this continent in terms of freedom of speech and the role of the media generally. I think you should congratulate yourself for keeping it up and for holding us accountable. And the question that must be asked and answered at this conference is how will we use these technologies and the theme of this conference to convey and to address development concerns of Africa. The power to tell the story of the challenges Africa faces and to highlight the solutions proposed by all of us, by government, by ordinary citizens, and lies with you, utilizing this fantastic media that we now have.
The Zimbabwe Women Journalist Mentoring Program prepares young women journalists for leadership roles in Zimbabwe's increasingly robust media environment. And the program was launched in September 2011 as a joint collaboration between the Humanitarian Information Facilitation Center and the United States Embassy's Public Affairs section.
We view the Highway Africa Conference as an opportunity for women journalists in Zimbabwe to engage media professionals, academics, and civil society leaders on critical issues and current events in Africa. And as our First Lady, Michelle Obama, stated recently in Washington, D.C., at the 2014 Mandela Washington Fellows Summit, no matter where you work, no matter what issue you focus on, whether it's health or microfinance, human rights, or clean energy, women's equality must be a central part of your work. This is the third year that the United States Embassy in Harare has supported the Women Journalist Mentoring Program. And we're very proud of this initiative, which today has reached over 40 young women journalists from newsrooms across Zimbabwe's 10 provinces.
We start by saying congratulations to you, Rumbizai Mashayahanya. Well done to you, Bridget Manavire. Translation is, that is our child, that is our child. Precious Manamano. Yet another one. Congratulations, well done to Gabichirai Masiwa. Well done, Michelle Chipamba. A big hand for Mandy Kanyemba. Well done, Lois Muragami. Well done, Melody Ganyambira. Elina Mutanga. A big hand for Marvelous Moyo. So good Levitetua. Lidela Ngotla. Thelma Chanapira. Shelly Kupe. And Sophia Mapuranga.
May we commit ourselves to creating a more just, a more humane, a more caring, a more equitable world. This is one special way in which we can honor and pay tribute to this fine young man whose life was cut short by the brutal apartheid system. The sun that set at dawn. Highway Africa has over the years grown to become the most prestigious platform for African journalists and media practitioners to share experiences and ideas. It is through this sharing of experiences and ideas and learning through and from each other that takes place at Highway Africa that your profession and practice is enhanced and strengthened. On that score, we wish to record our profound gratitude and sincere appreciation to Chris Kabwato, the Director of Highway Africa Center.